Hi ladies, welcome back. Once again, Bernina Club. Gosh, honestly, the months are just going so fast. We're halfway through the year. And as promised, I've told you to collect all of your little bits of thread and pieces from cutting your threads and throwing out your old threads. So if you've got yucky old threads you know you're never going to use, take them off their reel and throw them in your stash. So this is what I've got left of some of the ones I've been doing and I've been using, so we're going to use these up. Now, to do this, all that's going to make up our fabric is going to be this thread. So what we need is we need a product that we can sandwich our work together and then it washes away. So this product is called Washaway. There's other products called Solvi, which are water soluble as well. But this one, the Washaway, is the one I like to use because it's lovely and firm. And as you can see, I wet my finger to make sure it was the right product, and it just simply dissolves. So this is the product you want. You want to have a layer of Washaway under your work, and then you want to cover your work with a layer of Washaway. So if you're wanting to do a really long scarf or a nice big piece of fabric, just make sure your Washaway is big enough to complete the project, but it honestly won't matter because you can join them together afterwards, which I'll show you. So you start off by getting out your threads, and you're simply going to start teasing your threads out and pulling them apart and laying them on your Washaway. Now it's really, really important to have it quite thick because this is going to become a fabric. It's not going to have anything else in it. I'm not laying down wool rovings or a base of anything. The thread is simply going to be my fabric. So just keep layering it out, and if you want it really nice and fine like cobwebby, then pull it out more. And you can put it in colours, or you can lay colours on top of colours if you don't like some of the colours you've got as a base. So just keep layering it out. It's quite fun. You'll see we have a lot of this colour. The reason being, when our machines come to us, they have this colour as a base in our bobbins, and we take it all off and replace it. But yellow's a very, very good colour to actually use as an accent. So quite often with yellow, once I've got my base fabric, I just do little snippets of yellow, and it's a really good little highlighter. So I give my thread a little bit of a haircut and I put snippets of yellow because it brings out other colours. It's quite good. So you can do sort of things like this as well. You don't just have to layer it all down. So yellow's a very, very good colour to have as a base. Also, I noticed here I've got a little bit of overlocking. So this is a little bit of overlocking thread, and you can just lay that down over top. It can make it quite interesting, but good fun. And it's great because you're not wasting any fabric, any threads or anything. It's wonderful. And of course you can layer fabrics on here if you want, but today we're just doing the threads. So once you've got your threads all on there and you're happy, you're going to layer it with your Washaway. So it's quite good fun. I love it. I love doing things like this. So layer it all up. I don't like that one on there. Put that one on there. So once you're happy with it, you just put, oh look, my little bit of overlocking escaped. Layer your Washaway on top. I'll just pop these away for now because I'm obviously not going to do that big a piece. Pop that away. And I'm just using an old hoop that I actually had. Any sort of hoop is good. You can get the hoops with the spring action. This is a good size to use because it's nice and easy to hold my work. The reason why I use a hoop for this job is because it's easy to do freehand for this work, and you don't need to try and hold the fabric. So if I had a large piece, I would simply hoop the area I wanted to work in, pop my top of my hoop on, and then for the rest of my work, say it was a really large piece, I would just pin it, but I would just work in one area. So I would just pin the rest of my work. So you don't have to have this really, really tight like you would normally do if you were doing embroidery. It just needs to be tight enough that it'll hold the work and loose enough that you can pop it off, move it across and do the next section. So you don't need to have it tight at all, but I'll just do this size today and just show you. Now, I don't want you to be frightened of doing freehand, because any one of your machines can do freehand quilting and freehand stitching, should I say, in this instance. And all you need to use is your foot, which is called your darning foot. So the darning foot has this little hole here, and this foot was used for darning socks, obviously, back in the day, and it just looks a little bit like this. There are other type of darning feet, but this is the one that you would get with your machine. So it would be called a number 9 darning foot, and that's the foot you want to use today. Now, I've actually put in my machine a top stitching needle, because later on I'm going to show you how you can actually stitch with metallic threads. So this metallic thread here is a Madeira thread called Spectra, and I really like it because it's a sparkly thread, and I'm going to add an extra layer of stitching with that thread. So I've put in a top stitching needle which has an eye 3 times the length of a normal needle, so that this metallic thread won't shred. Now, I tried a metallic needle with this thread and it didn't work. So the top stitching needle was the only needle that actually worked to freehand stitch. Because this thread is a flat thread, it's not twisted like a normal sewing thread, you can normally only straight stitch with it, but I've got it sussed. So this machine is a 7 series machine, so it's quite a large machine, and it's got a large sew table. So I'll put my sew table on, makes it nice and easy to work. And you want to drop your feed dogs down. So on the side of the machine you have a button that lowers and makes your feed dogs come up and down, and I want them down for this job because I'm freehanding. Now, what freehand stitching means is my machine is only going to sew in one place unless I move my fabric. So that's why the hoop's really good, because I can move it nice and freely. So I'm going to bring my bobbin thread up to the top by just tapping my foot or turning my balance wheel, whichever you've got on your machine, tapping my foot again, pulling up my thread, and there is my bobbin thread. So you bring your bobbin thread right through your fabric to the top of your work, put your foot down, and you're just going to stitch in one place. And I've got my machine set so my needle stops down, and I'm just going to cut those 2 threads. Make sure you get the correct thread. And you just cut those excess threads, and you know what you do with these girls, you put them in your stash. So you'll never need to worry about it again. Now, if I had never ever learned to do freehand, this is a perfect time. So you don't need to do anything special. You don't need to stipple. You don't need to meander. You can do whatever you like. You can zigzag if you like. The secret with doing this type of work is you want to cover your fabric, your threads really well, because you're making a fabric. So you want it no more than 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters. You want all your lines crossed over. So you could certainly, if you want to, you could sew sideways. Have a thread dangling. You could sew sideways if you wanted to, all the way, and then you could go back over and cross it, because you see I'm moving the work. You could certainly do that, but it's easier, I think, if you could do figure 8s, you can do circles, you can stipple, you can do whatever you like, because all you're doing is crossing over your work. So I want you to not be scared of freehand, and knowing this is a really good way to learn it, and you could scribble. You could just simply go anywhere and everywhere and it wouldn't make any difference. Once you've learnt, of course, then you will probably do it a little bit differently, but you certainly do want to cross over your threads today, which you wouldn't normally do when you are freehand quilting and stippling. But for this one, the sky's the limit. You can do any design you like and you can't really go wrong. So I've chosen a variegated thread today, which I think is really pretty. Again, this is just going to go in with my threads I've already got as a base, but you still will certainly see a little bit of it. So it's a nice thread to use. And I've put a slightly thicker thread on the bottom. You can do whatever you like. So I can sew anywhere I like here. You can have a bit of fun. You can even write your name, practice writing your name. It's a good time to practice. So you want to cover all of your fabric with your stitching. You see, it's very, very easy. I can just do it very, very easily. Easier with two hands, with a hoop, rather than trying to hold my work in place. You don't have to worry about having even stitches or anything like that. You simply just stitch all over your fabric. So once I'd covered that whole area, then I hold my hoop in one place and I stitch in one place, and I have locked off my threads so they will never come undone. So then I push my scissors, or you cut with your scissors, and it has cut my thread. Okay? Now on these machines, we're not allowed to pull our thread out through here. We need to cut our thread and pull our thread down through here so we don't get a build-up of threads in here. And that goes in my stash. So now I'll show you how to use this wonderful thread. Now if you're using your thread stand that stands up like this, you must take off your felt and put it on there as well, so it feeds very well, and also to stop your thread from going around your balance wheel. So if I can find the end of this thread would be a wonderful thing. It's very, very pretty, but I can't really see it. Might be it. Oh, there we are. I think I spotted something. I think I did. Excellent. Right, so I'm going to pop my thread there, and I'm going to have my thread coming off the back. And so, like I said, this is a flat thread. It's an interesting thread, and I absolutely love it. But I haven't been able to freehand stitch with it. So now with the top stitching needle, it's working very, very well. Very pretty. So I start again, and I'm going to do a second layer over my first layer of threads. So I just put my foot down, needle up, pull my threads so that my bottom thread is to the top, give it a little pull. So you're starting with both threads on top, and you'll never have any jam ups. Now just do a couple of stitches in one place so that that happens by not moving your hoop. Cut your threads, put those in the stash, getting a wonderful stash. And now I can simply do exactly the same, but I don't need to do as much stitching because this is just a highlight. And I usually don't cross over this, I just simply stipple it. You can do whatever you like. There are no rules. I don't go very fast. That would be about as fast as I would go with metallic thread, but I'm just controlling that with my foot control. So I just do this as a little highlight. Now one thing I will tell you, if you're doing a scarf, don't use metallic threads on top or in your work because they're very scratchy against your skin. So I just use it when I'm doing my pictures or my samples, but I certainly don't use it on a scarf because it's just too scratchy. So that's just a little hint for the day. So I just cover over my work. So this could be another bright colour. Certainly doesn't have to be metallic, but I do like this thread. So when you're happy that you've covered it all over, simply hold it in one place, lock it off, and if you're lucky enough to have a machine with scissors, cut it with scissors, and there you have it. Now if I hold that there, you can see my threads. So I've kind of made it messy to show you. You can do absolutely anything with your threads. Now when you've covered your whole piece of fabric, I had this bright idea. Sometimes I have bright ideas. I had this bright idea, so here's my fabric and I'm ready to start washing it away. I decided that I would put my embroidery hoop on and go to my embroidery machine and embroider a design on top of my work. And then I thought, well, if I go and wash that away, I'm going to end up with a raggedy mess around the outside. So I thought, well, I'm just doing a sample for what I was going to show you. So I actually sewed my braid right over the top of all my work, and then I washed it away. So that makes sense because then everything's nice and tidy. So I embroidered on here. So if you then wanted to do some beautiful handwork or some wool couching or whatever over your work for the front of a bag or something like that, you would do it now before you go washing it away. So here's what I did. Here's my fabric that I made, and I went to the embroidery machine and I embroidered a design. And in hindsight, had I looked for my braid first, I could have made my embroidery the same color, but I didn't. I didn't even know we had this braid. So this is, pretend this is my piece of fabric here. So I went and embroidered it, and then I found a really cute little braid, and I just zigzagged my braid around the edge, and then I just went to the sink, put the plug in, by the way, and you dunk it in warm water, take it out, empty out the sink, fill it up again, dunk it in warm water, and that's all I did. Then I turned my work over and I just trimmed around the edge with my duckbill scissors. Oh, I've missed one. Trimmed around the edge with my duckbill scissors, and I'm left with my beautiful fabric and my embroidery. Now, if you find that you've done some of your embroidery work and you think it's a little bit too fine and it's not going to wear very well, just cut a piece of the Washaway, put it on the back, put some more threads on, put another bit of Washaway on, stitch it and wash it away. So you really can't go wrong, but it's really, really good fun. And you can use your fabric that you've made for all sorts of things. You could, once you've made it, you could cut it out and use it for an applique. So yeah, have a load of fun. I think it's absolutely awesome. So that's what you're going to do with your threads. And again, like I said, if you want to, you can then add fabric to it and all sorts of things to it as well. So you're starting off with this bag, which turns into this, which then turns into something which is really quite amazing. So have some fun, ladies, with that. I think you'll really, really love it. And if you haven't been collecting threads, collect threads. Ask all your friends. They'll think you're quite mad. But it's a really neat, fun thing to do, and certainly worthwhile having a go at. All right, so that's what I'm showing you first off. Now I have to show you something I touched on last month. You know how I showed you how to do your little coin purse, and you use your little zip and an easy method of doing your zip? Well, if you're going to do a cushion, I do the same method. So here's my exposed zipper in the back of my cushion. And I haven't had to do any work. I haven't had to measure anything or do anything like that, because what I actually do when I'm putting in a zip, and the ladies asked me if I'd re-show this, so I will. So I'm going to cut my thread. Oh, actually, I think I've cut my thread too short, so I'm going to have to very carefully pull it that way. There we go. I've taken it out of the tension unit, and this thread doesn't have any anything that will go into my machine. So I've taken that out. I'm taking that thread off, and I'm actually going to put this thread on, and I'm actually going to show you once again how to do this, because the ladies did ask, so I shall do as I'm told. Sometimes I'm a good girl. Oh. Okay, so down, make sure your foot is up when you're threading, and I'm going to put on my zipper foot, just my standard number 4 zipper foot. So I'm going to take that foot off, and this is my number 4 zipper foot. This one here, I should go that way so you can see it, and it's just your standard foot that comes with your machine. Alright, so just your number 4 standard foot. Now when you put it on your machine, if you left your needle position in the center, as soon as you put your needle down, you would break it. So you need to move your needle position to the left or the right, whichever way you're sewing. On this machine, I actually tell it what foot I'm using so that it doesn't break a needle, and it won't let me break a needle, which is amazing. So I'm actually going to tell it what foot I'm using, and I don't really have to worry. So here's my zip, and here's my fabric, and yeah, I'm using some crazy Kiwiana stuff today. And you'll notice that my zip is longer than my fabric. Shall I hold it that way? So my zip is longer than my fabric, and this is what makes it a really, really, really easy zip to put on. I'm actually going to turn it that way because the sheep are going that way. Wouldn't make any difference to the sheep, but it makes difference to me. So look at this cool fabric. It's a new Kiwiana one. So I'm laying it down like that, and I'm just going to simply sew that down now. So all you do, I'm just going to leave that thread in the bobbin, it won't matter. So all I'm going to do is straight stitch with my needle position to the left, and I'm going to butt my foot up against the zip. I need to put my feed dogs up, or else I'm going to sew in one place. Okay, so all I'm going to do is put my needle down there, make sure my thread's out, and I'm going to not top stitch, I'm just going to sew down here. You can reverse the start, and I can turn my speed up now, and then just line the raw edge of your fabric up with your zip edge. You do not need to overlock that edge because you're going to be double stitching it, which I'll show you in a second. Now I thought I wasn't going to use my iron, but I actually am, so I'm just going to get it and plug it in. I'm just going to plug my iron in. It's my little craft iron, it's quite handy because I will need to iron that. So just sew down with your raw edges against the edge of your zip. It's the easiest pillow you'll ever make. So simple. I don't need to back stitch it there because I'm actually going to be sewing it again. Then once you've done that, you simply just turn your work over and press that and top stitch it. And when you top stitch, you're going to turn it this way. The needle position's still to the left, and you're just going to run your foot along this edge, which I'll show you now. It's just so simple. So I'll just give that a light press. Yes, you can iron on these zips. These are, we only sell very, very good quality zips, and they are absolutely fine to iron on. They're not going to melt. They're not from the shop that sells plastic zips, so you don't have to worry. So I've just lightly pressed that, and the edge of my foot is now running on the fold of my fabric, so there is no work to do. You simply just start, and again, I don't really need to backstitch because I'm going to be sewing it over. So you can see why you don't need to have another thickness of overlocking on here because you're double stitching it anyway. So don't add to the bulk of it. Now, if you're wondering why my beautiful machine is so quiet, these big 7 series machines, they actually have a oil reservoir in them. So underneath this plate is where I oil my machine, and it continually oils all around my hook area. I love it. So quiet and so smooth. And you can see I've got a lovely big workspace here, which is wonderful. So just sew up to the very end. And there you have one side of your zip done. Oh, I've got scissors. I nearly forgot. I can just push my scissors. And there you have your zip sewn in. The end of your zip is extending to the edge of your fabric, and the beginning of your zip is extending to the edge of the fabric. So now you do the other side exactly the same. Oh, make sure you get the sheep up the same way. That would be hilarious. That would be quite funny. So now you're going to do the same thing on this side. And line up your raw edge with the edge of your zip. Now you'll notice that when I stop, I have set my needle to stop in the work. This is why I do not need to pin it, okay? So I've stopped with my needle in the work and I don't need to pin it. It's brilliant. And you ladies know I don't pin much anyway, so I love the fact I don't even need to. And you'll notice on purpose I've made the fabric a different size because at this stage it doesn't matter. All right, this is just the back of my cushion and I'm trying to show you how you don't need to go measuring it all and you can just make life really, really, really easy doing this method. I don't do anything hard. I don't have time. There we are. And then turn that over. Now, you need to make a decision now. If you're wanting an exposed zipper, you turn it over and top stitch. And for the cushions I'm making, I am having them exposed because they're children's fun cushions. But if you don't want it exposed, you simply roll your fabric and when you press it over your zip and then you top stitch it. Okay, so for exposed, you just press it and top stitch it. But if you don't want it exposed, you just roll it over. And the easiest thing to do is roll it over and line it up with your row of stitching and then top stitch it over this side. But I'm going to have it fun like that. So I'm just going to press that. Should move the things that are underneath, it would be quite handy. So you just can come like this and just press that away to this side. There we go. And it's a fun, easy zip. Super, super easy. And if I go this side, that will not be correct. So I'm going to move my needle position to the right. And I'm going to top stitch this way because I'm sewing from the bottom up. So I'm just going to top stitch up this way. And I've made a perfect little zip for the back of my cushion. How easy was that? And you can cut the threads if you forget the scissors. Now, all I do to finish my cushion, pretend we'll use this for my cushion, is I just lay my cushion on top that I want to use. Come up here so you can see, like this. So the cushion is obviously going to be smaller than your backing. Lay this over top, undo your zip, pin those pieces together. There's a pin just to hold them. I usually stitch them and you simply lay your cushion on here, sew all around. You can see you're going to cover all of this. I'll leave your zip a little bit more open and then trim your edges, turn it through and you've got a perfect cushion like this. Okay? So it's a very, very easy method. And when we come back, I'm going to show you what to do to make this.